On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, Jared McCain's NBA Draft Profile. Does he fit with Oklahoma City? Plus your mailbag questions.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, media member, and beat writer for SI Thunder, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, we're diving into another prospect profile and projection, this time looking at Jared McCain. Plus, we have your mailbag questions on a Mailbag Monday. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free over at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. So every year we do our NBA Draft Profile series where we go through all of their strengths and weaknesses and how they would fit with the Thunder. We did Kyle Filipowski on Friday. We're doing Jared McCain here on Monday, Devin Carter tomorrow, and you all came out in droves to predict our Wednesday's draft profile. I will be taking those comments and utilizing them as Deron Holmes is on Wednesday. Also this week, fantastic draft guest Derek Parker. You can go check out his YouTube channel, Derek Parker, over there with all the great draft content that you could need. We'll talk with him about the draft as someone who's both intimate with the Thunder and with the NBA draft. So Jared McCain, let's talk about him. 6'2", 203 with a 6'3" wingspan. The wingspan is concerning. More on that later. 20-year-old out of Duke. And if you had to describe Jared McCain, it would be this table-setting scorer who still has room to grow. So let's get into the strengths and weaknesses of Jared McCain's game. I think that he has an absurd level of feel for the game. His awareness and his motor on both ends of the floor continuously allow him to make the right play. He's not going to fumble away a possession. He's not going to lose you the game. He's not going to do something just boneheaded. He will be able to impact the game at a high level, impact this game within his role. And part of that comes from his maturity level. Like, he is very, very steady. Wise beyond his years in the sense of situational awareness, making reads, not pressing during adverse moments, understanding when you can go 2 for 1, understanding whenever you can do those type of things. And I think that you saw that leadership on display at Duke. But another area where he's super valuable is his versatility, because I think that he's going to take a massive leap as a passer once he's in the NBA. Number one, naturally, you just get more spacing. You get better players around you in the NBA. But number two, Duke did not properly utilize him as a playmaker. We talked with Richard Stayman last week about that very thing. When Duke did allow him to play on the ball, he showcased that he has the ability to make every pass. And that was something that you saw a lot in the high school ranks from Jared McCain. So I think that he can take a step up on the ball because he has the ability to protect the basketball, make the right reads, make the right passes, and he is able to hit 38% of his jumpers in dribble jumper scenarios. So off the dribble, he shoots 38%. That's really, really good for him, especially as one of the guys on Duke's team. With that comes his comfortability running the pick and roll. That was one of his best assets. And the NBA is a pick and roll league. So when one of your best assets is something that is the bread and butter of the association, you have to be getting excited. And we'll talk about how this all comes together with the Thunder specifically coming up, but you can start to envision, where your first instinct might have been when you clicked on this show, when you're typing in the comments right now and amidst the show, another guard? Really? Another guard? But you can start to envision how the Thunder don't really have a guy like this. Yes, they have a plethora of guards, but this specific archetype is one that they still need more of. Because whenever you see how versatile he is, he can play on the ball, as we just described, as a pick and roll ball handler, as an improved table setter, with the ball in his hands more, and as a guy who makes the right plays. He also can play off the ball, and that does not limit him in any way. So as an off the ball threat, not a guy just capable of doing it, but a genuine threat. He shoots 42% on catch and shoot opportunities in the 92nd percentile. That's all fine and well. The Thunder have some guys who are really good at catch and shoot chances. But what happened in the biggest moments on the biggest stages is that they could not diversify themselves off the ball. Whereas here comes Jared McCain, who attacks closeouts very well and can attack a closeout, make the extra pass as the defense is rotating, and really put them in a compromised position, or can attack closeouts and hit those dribble jumpers at a 38% clip. So his ability to attack closeouts should be really, really exciting and really encouraging as a team that needs that help. And then you can spark him in transition. 1.3 points per possession in transition for Jared McCain. That is to a T, right? What the Thunder do, what the Thunder try to capitalize on. So you can envision yourself seeing Jared McCain as a off-the-ball threat for the Thunder on their drive and kick system, and with the gravity that Shea and J-Dub and Chet will play with throughout these staggered lineups that might see him playing alongside those guys. You can see where he can help prevent scoring lulls for a more bench-heavy lineup. I think that his willingness to be physical is a plus. Now, we'll talk about in the weaknesses how his frame limits him in this capacity, but he's at least willing to do everything his body will allow him to do in a physical nature. There's just only so much you can do whenever you're, 6'2" with a 6'3" wingspan and 200 pounds. He's super crafty around the rim to try to negate that, but that transitions us into the weaknesses. So the wingspan, as you move up the NBA, that's a huge concern, is that he's only got a 6'3" wingspan. Because while he does shoot 63% at the rim at the college ranks, you're now going to face the best, the longest, strongest, most athletic group of defenders that you're ever going to face. And so they have a way to just naturally limit the craftiness you can have, especially as a player who thrived off of no wasted movements and thrived off of, getting the best of the defensive positioning and not necessarily leaning on just full-blown athleticism. It wasn't as though he has blazing speed with an amazing first step. He was taking every ounce of craft and savviness of the sense of his pathways to the rim to get to that 63%. Well, defenses, even if you are as crafty as McCain is, defenses are just better now and so improved now that it's tough to rely on that. Now, it can be done. You can list off top of the top league guys who do this in a small frame and who finish at the rim. But it's very hard to do. There's a reason why that you instantly can think of examples, around the league, and there's not that many of them, that can handle scoring at the rim at this size. Defensively, you'll always need to craft your roster and lineups around hiding Jared McCain. And hiding him is not necessarily the knock it immediately hits your ear as on Jared McCain, because he does have that motor we mentioned. He does have that savviness and awareness of like how to benefit and how to maximize his off-ball defense. But when you get called into action, right, when you get called into the pick and roll and things like that in this pick and roll league, he's going to need players around him who he can funnel the play toward. He's always going to be relying on getting the ball toward a better defender. This is a weakness for him in general, but an area where the Thunder can hide him on that end of the floor. So the lack of a first step hurts him in the sense of his rim finishing. You would expect that rim finishing to tick down from 63%, unless he's just one of those anomalies as a small guard. And defensively, his impact will come from just his awareness level of like playing the passing lanes, getting deflections, and being able to dive on the floor with a high motor. But he can really be picked on as a pick and roll option, it's a target for other teams, which we know that NBA teams will do. So that's his strengths. That's his weaknesses. Coming up, where is he available at, and how would he fit inside the Thunder specifically? But first, once here right now, our friends over at eBay Motors. Check out eBay Motors today because they understand that passion, drive, patience, that's the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you can need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts to choose from, your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for with the eBay Motors Guaranteed Fit. Your parts are guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back because with eBay Motors, you will be burning rubber, not cash. So get your parts right now that you want and the parts that you need to make your car the MVP and bring home a huge win by keeping your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay, eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Motors Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. We're back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast, on the Lockdown Podcast Network, your teams every day. We're continuing on our Jared McCain NBA Draft Profile. We're also going to have your mailbag questions at the end of the show. And right now, you can also check out the Locked On Sports Today YouTube channel after this podcast is over, because if you're sick of watching Fox Sports and ESPN on your TV all day, where you have to turn down the volume to avoid the shouting, you can make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you the can't-miss analysis, opinion, and news. Stream it 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channel app as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Let's get into Jared McCain. So where is he available at? Where do the mocks currently have Jared McCain's value? The Thunder control the 12th overall pick, and in the 2024 draft class, there's not a ton of consensus. So this makes the Thunder's ability to have a wide range of prospects, graded differently, very high. So the Ringer has Jared McCain at 17. ESPN has Jared McCain at 16. The Athletic has him at 14. Bleacher Report has him at 15. CBS has him at 15. Tankathon has him at 14. And our good friend Richard Stamen has Jared McCain at 18. Jared McCain is one of my favorite prospects in this draft. I think that on the high-end outcome, you're looking at a starting player who is one of your better secondary scorers. Now, this is not a perfect one-to-one NBA comp. I don't think that there exists as such, right? I think NBA comps, by and large, are silly. But think impact level of like the high end being like a CJ McCollum impact level, which most players, do not hit their high end outcome whenever they're in their prospect phase, right? But that's like the impact level of a guy who, yes, you got to high defensively, but he does make your life easier offensively and really helps you in the aggregate and in the totality of things. The low end impact, here's where you start to get into the draft philosophy side of things a little bit, especially at pick 12. In this draft, that is a draft where there's no instant pop star power, right? Like no one is just going to say this guy is for sure a slam dunk star. I think it does have a lot of contributing role players. And then of those contributing role players, maybe you develop guys into stars that we look back on and say, wow, this guy slipped to X pick and he ended up being a really good player. With that being said, Jared McCain is one of the guys in this draft that I think that the worst version of Jared McCain is a high-end floor-raising bench guard. Like, it's a guy who is coming off your bench to make your team better and raises the floor of your secondary unit. Like, I think that that's the worst Jared McCain will be. And if that is your low end, then he instantly becomes one of the best prospects, especially at pick number 12, to look at. Because I can't guarantee you that for everyone else. The way that I would feel comfortable looking at and judging and guaranteeing, so to say, that impact for Jared McCain. I feel really good about Jared McCain. So what would his future role with the Thunder look like? The Thunder have this unique opportunity as a 57-win team that has their core together. They are not star hunting still. Now, they also wouldn't turn down developing another star. Clearly, no team would. But they have their core nucleus. Now you're flushing out everything around them. I think Jared McCain in this situation could be a swing starter, where if you need that offensive punch and you know it's going to be a track meet, regardless of how good the Thunder's defense is, and I think will consistently be under Mark Dignault, if you need that scoring punch, then you put Jared McCain in that starting five. And that's a matchup by matchup situation. So as a swing starter, you're technically going to be looking at kind of a sixth man type of role. But I think that rotationally, from his rookie season on, he's the perfect upgrade to the bench unit. Because I look at what he could provide. And this team, again, struggled to attack closeouts. At times fell into those scoring lulls, which is why the Thunder went and traded for Gordon Hayward, who ended up not being able to score the ball. But that was like a huge selling point of trading for Gordon Hayward. This is a guy that helps you remedy that. And one of the interesting parts of as you groan about another guard, I don't actually think that this impacts the roster all that much. And we'll talk about this again for Devin Carter tomorrow. But the Thunder already rifle through players. Like, they rifle through their guys. And so there'll be matchups where it's a McCain and Joe, you need the offensive firehouse, type of night. There'll be matchups where you need to really lean on Wallace and Wiggins. You need to really lean on them, to get it done defensively with what they can provide offensively. Right? Like, I think that Wallace is a 82 game player again next year, as long as he's healthy, and he is going to play every single night regardless of matchup. But then you get into Joe, Wallace, Wiggins. Then you get into Joe, McCain, Wiggins, and you get Joe in there for the three-point shooting. You get McCain in there for the table setting. You've got Wiggins that can kind of do it all, but especially hang his hat defensively. So roster impact-wise, because of how Mark handles the rotation, I don't think that it really changes much while elevating your potential and elevating your portfolio of ways you can go about sticking to your style, sticking to your philosophies, while counteracting what teams are doing to you. So that's why the Thunder should take him. He's a seamless fit in any lineup. OKC has the defense to hide him. You're going to funnel everything into Chet at the rim. You can quickly, see guys like Lou Dort, who fight over every single screen, take away the mismatch hunting. And if you do draw the mismatch, the Thunder are athletic enough, they're good enough, they're long enough to quickly revert that with peel switching and things like that. So I think that the Thunder would be the perfect spot for him. And it helps you avoid those scoring lows that we've been talking about. The downside of why the Thunder shouldn't pick him is that they're in this interesting spot at 12, where we have no idea how the draft board's going to unfold. There could be guys that just have more ceiling, higher ceilings and better value at 12. That is a better use of the asset than to get a guy like Jared McCain. But that's really the only knock on drafting Jared McCain for me, is that there could technically be better value on the board at that selection. But I really like what Jared McCain provides. I really like him as a prospect. I think that he is someone that, the Thunder should take a massive, massive look at. Now, coming up, we're going to talk about your mailbag questions. It is Mailbag Monday after all, and there's a lot of fun ones. There's some serious ones. There's everything you could want all coming up. But first, I want to tell you right now about our good friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. Check out LinkedIn Jobs, because we understand that when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find qualified professionals that are right for the role, and that's why you check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn is not just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals who can make it a better place for you to hire. It gives you access to professionals that you cannot find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all this while making the process easier and intuitive. LinkedIn does know that as a small business owner, you are juggling so many hats that you might not have the time or the resources to make the hire, which is why LinkedIn consistently find ways to make the process easier. They've even launched a new feature that helps you write job descriptions, which makes the process quicker for you. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedInNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedInNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. It's Mailbag Monday. Let's dive into your mailbag questions. So Javi OKC asks, if draft night comes and OKC picks Devin Carter, do you think that means that Giddey will be moved this offseason? No, I think that the draft will be handled independent of future moves, right? So if they draft Devin Carter or they draft Kyle Filipowski or they draft Jared McCain or they draft whoever, that does not influence whatever they end up doing with Josh Giddey, right? I don't think that the difference in moving Josh Giddey is Devin Carter or Jared McCain. It's too multi-layered. It's too big of a decision to rest solely on the number 12 overall pick. We talked about this decision with Joel Lorenzi. We talked about this decision on our own last week. That's like, I think, a Giddey situation versus how the roster looks after the draft. Much like we said with Jared McCain, I don't think that Devin Carter would shuffle the roster much or would impact the roster that much. I think it would just be an inherent upgrade over guys that you have. And it wouldn't necessarily take the baton from Josh Giddey. Now you could end up seeing the Thunder draft Devin Carter and trade Josh Giddey, but I don't think that the two would be linked together truly. At Smokey Berra says, seeing how good Jada has become, it's almost a no-brainer that the Thunder move up to draft Cody, right? I wouldn't say it's a no-brainer that they trade up to draft Cody Williams. I do think that there's an element of, number one, me personally, we'll have a Cody Williams draft profile this week as well. Me personally, I do like Cody Williams as a prospect, regardless of if his name was Cody Williams or Cody Smith or whatever it would end up being. Regardless of who he's related to, I like him as a prospect. In this draft, where there's no consensus, where there is no true hierarchy, and you can really make the case for a ton of prospects, it becomes even more of a shot in the dark than a typical draft. And if you're gonna bank on a player's upside and you're gonna bank on a player developing, you're gonna bank on, and you're gonna take that shot in the dark, right? Who do you have more info on than Cody Williams? Not only do you have his brother in-house, but that leads you to things like understanding their work ethic, understanding their family, understanding their upbringing, understanding who they are at their core. Now Cody Williams and Jalen Williams are two different people, even though they're brothers, but they seem to have the same drive, the same focus, the same work ethic from everything that you hear. So when you're banking on using the 12th pick, as a shot in the dark, as a way to improve your roster with the ceiling, with development, it gets a little easier to see how you could kind of develop and mold Cody Williams. And I think that Cody Williams is a really good player in his own right, again, regardless of who his brother is. Big Rex says that he's in Vegas for a work conference, not a draft sicko, not a deadhead, but was shocked to find out that the Dead & Company traded for John Mayer on the Axe. The question is simple. If you could create a Grateful Dead band with a Thunder, who would be in what role? So Sam Presti would clearly be on the drums. Sam Presti, a little bit of a deadhead, and he's just a drummer, truly and actually. So I'd have him on the drums. It's tough to cast anyone that's not forgive me for saying this because Mark's only 39, but anyone that's not old in the Grateful Dead, I would put Sam as the drummer. I'd give Mark a guitar and just kind of let him figure it out. From there, you look up and down the actual playing roster. Jay Will would fit the vibe of a Grateful Dead concert. Okay, listen. Jay will fit the positive nature of the Grateful Dead concert. See, it's a tough task to talk about the Grateful Dead with NBA players, but nonetheless, which I guess is technically okay now. Okay, we're getting way off track. Let's just say Sam, Mark, Jay Will, Muscala? Does he count? Muscala? Dave Bliss. Dave Bliss seems like a guy that enjoys the dead. I'd have to find a way to ask him about that next year, but he seems like a guy who'd enjoy the Grateful Dead. Jared Hendricks, sign Paul George and draft a big man to help to homegrown out. I think that autocorrect got you. I think you mean to help homegrown out. But yeah, I mean, signing Paul George, I don't think that that's going to happen. But it would be quite the summer. We'd have a lot of fun on this show if they went and did that. Moving right along to your questions at OKC Thunder _BR hoops. How do you grade the Thunder's needs for this season? OKC Thunder BR Hoops' needs is power forward with good size to help on rebounding without moving Chet from center. Backup center to provide rim protection in the non-Chet minutes and help J-Will. Another pure shooter to help out the offensive slumps. So yeah, I mean, you just hit all the needs on the head. I wrote about this on SI Thunder not too long ago about what the Thunder's needs are. You got to keep Chet. You got to keep Chet as the starting center and as like the main majority bulk center. I think that adding something in the front court is a two-folded, helper, right? You're helping get more size on the glass. You're helping J-Will look better. You're helping whenever you need to run double bigs, which is only like 2% of their minutes, but still there are times where they need to run double bigs. You're helping elevate that group as well. So I think that you've kind of hit on the nail on the head. I would say pure shooter is interesting. And this part is tough. Like you're at a point now in this rebuild where you are looking for the difference in winning a championship. And winning a championship is inherently hard. There's not many guys that fit this mold, but you are looking for a pure knockdown shooter who can also play off the catch. And that's hard to go. That's easy to dream up. Like we can dream up all these needs and that would have this rest together. It's a reason why there's very few just completely perfect, complete rosters in the NBA. So yeah, I mean they absolutely need a pure shooter. I would say the pure shooter aspect. The reason I give pause on pure shooter, not necessarily a one-dimensional shooter though. Like you've got to be able to attack the catch, which is what we harped on with Jared McCain. DR34. What trade packages, including Giddey, would it take to get Lauri? Lauri Markkanen, again, we'll have a Lauri Markkanen pod, but because he's such a hot topic, I don't believe fully that the Jazz want to trade Lauri Markkanen. So, the package would be Giddey and picks, but I don't think that the Jazz would want to move him. Ryan, to end things out, says, what's your opinion of bringing in Steven Adams as a backup center? Look, Steven Adams is not going to be the answer. Like, I get the nostalgia aspect of it. I get that he can still clean the glass, but we've seen that story before. We've just seen that story before. And I don't think it's going to end well. Like, in the postseason, I don't think that it works with the Thunder style. It'd be a fun story. It'd be fun to cover. It'd be awesome in every regard, but on the floor. Like, I think that you can do better upgrading the big man position than Steven Adams, even though he's a fan favorite and he's really fun. But that's just kind of where we're at. You can go back and watch the bubble playoffs and, even some of the stuff with Memphis, but I think he's still a talented player, but it would not be this remedy. I don't think. So that's what we got so far with our mailbag questions. We've done our Jared McCain draft profile now. Let me know below what you think of Jared McCain, what you think of what he could become in the NBA. So again, our schedule, we're going to lay it out here. Jared McCain today, Devin Carter tomorrow, Deron Holmes Wednesday. Who's the next guy that you want to see? I have a list of guys that we're going to get to no matter what, but I do want to make sure that I'm prioritizing on the players that you guys want to hear talked about. So again, I did listen to you. We have now sharpied in Deron Holmes on Wednesday. And of course, we're going to have our draft guests like Derek Parker and some guys from those ceilings on the show throughout the rest of these few weeks until the draft. Then we'll get into free agency and trade topics, and away we go with the off season. So make sure you subscribe, like, review the show wherever you get podcasts from, including on YouTube. Until tomorrow. Be good and be good to one another.